All right, welcome back to the Dip Dive. We've got quite the collection here. Articles, notes, all the stuff you send over about something that honestly causes a lot of head scratching, especially around here in Massachusetts.
It really does seem to be a common point of confusion.
Totally. You know that moment. You've got some important paper, maybe it's for a visa or something you need to use overseas, maybe even just selling property here, and you see Notary Public and Apostille.
And your brain just freezes for a second.
Yeah, like, wait, aren't they kind of the same? Or maybe not? Am I supposed to know this?
You're definitely not alone there. Mixing them up happens all the time.
And the thing is, grabbing the wrong one, it can seriously mess things up. We're talking major delays, real frustration, just headaches you don't need.
Absolutely. Time-sensitive processes can get completely derailed.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Based on everything you gave us, we're going to cut right through that confusion. We'll break down what each of these things actually is.
Figure out when you do one versus the other.
Exactly. And make sure you walk away knowing, okay, this is what I need for my documents, whether they're staying right here in the good old USA or heading, way across the pond.
And it's fascinating, isn't it? How these two seemingly bureaucratic steps serve completely different worlds, really. One for here, one for out there. Understanding that context is everything.
It really is. Okay, so let's start with the one most folks have probably run into at some point, the notary. What exactly is a notary public? What are they doing with that stamp?
Okay, so think of a notary public as like an impartial witness. They're officially licensed by the state, so by Massachusetts in our case.
Right, a licensed official.
And their main job, their core function, is to verify the identity of the person who's signing a document.
So they check my driver's license, watch me sign, that kind of thing.
Precisely. They look at your ID, make sure you are who you claim to be, and they confirm you're signing it willingly, without any coercion.
Okay, so it's about me being me and doing it freely.
That's the heart of it. The whole purpose is really about preventing fraud. That notary stamp and signature basically say, yep, I, an official witness, saw this person sign this on this date, and I checked their ID.
Gotcha. Now, this is really important, right? What is a notary not doing? Because I think that's where some confusion comes in.
Oh, absolutely. Vital distinction. A notary is not validating the document's content.
Oh.
They aren't reading it to see if the facts are right or if the contract terms are fair or if it's, legally sound advice. None of that.
So they don't care if I'm signing a good deal or a bad deal?
Nope. Their job starts and stops with verifying the signer's identity and their voluntary act of signing. It's purely about the signature itself.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, just the act of signing. So when do you typically run into needing a notary here in the States?
You see it a lot in domestic legal stuff. Signing affidavits, the sworn statements, right? Things like powers of attorney or POA documents. Big one is real estate deals. Closing documents always need notarization. Even some business contracts, loan papers, lots of things where they want proof of who signed it for use within the U.S.
And that's the key, documents used within the U.S.?
Primarily, yes. A standard Massachusetts notary certification is mainly recognized here within our own legal system.
And getting it done is usually pretty straightforward, like walk into a bank or a UPS store sometimes.
Yeah, typically. It's usually a same-day kind of thing. You find a notary, show your ID, sign the paper, they stamp it, and you're often done in minutes.
All right, cool. So notary, U.S. use, verifies the signer, usually quick. Got it. Now, let's shift gears. The apostille. Sounds fancier. What's that all about?
It is a different animal altogether. An apostille isn't about verifying you signing a private document for use here. It's an official government certification.
Government, okay.
Yes. And it authenticates the origin of a public document. Or sometimes it confirms the authority of the official who signed it, like a notary or a county clerk.
And the point is?
The point is to make that document recognized as legitimate in another country.
Ah, okay. So the magic word is international. It's proving the document itself or the signature on it is legit for overseas use.
Exactly. It's basically saying, yes, this document or the seal signature on it from this official is valid according to our government. It's like an internationally agreed upon stamp of approval.
And you mentioned something about the Hague Convention that's tied into this.
It is. That's the whole basis for the apostille system. It's for documents going to countries that are part of the Hague Apostille Convention.
Which is?
It's this big international treaty signed way back in '61. It basically created a simplified way to get documents authenticated for use in other member countries.
Simplified? How so?
Well, before the apostille, you often needed, like, multiple layers of certifications. You'd have to go to different government offices, maybe even the embassy of the country you were sending it to. It was a real bureaucratic nightmare.
Oof, sounds painful.
Yeah. So the apostille replaces all that hassle if the country you're dealing with is part of the convention. It's one standardized certificate accepted by all members.
Okay, so it's a shortcut for member countries. And how many countries are we talking? Is it a small club?
Oh, no, it's huge now. The sources mentioned over 120 countries accept apostilles.
Wow, over 120.
Yeah. Think major places people travel or do business. Spain, Italy, Mexico, France, Germany, the UK. Tons of countries.
So chances are if you're sending an important document abroad, you might need this apostille thing. What kind of documents usually require it?
This really shows the international angle. Things like birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates.
Okay, vital records.
Exactly.
Yep.
Often needed if you're applying for dual citizenship, maybe getting married overseas, dealing with inheritance abroad. Another big one, FBI background checks.
For work visas and stuff?
Precisely.
Yep.
If you're going to work or live long-term in another country, they often want an apostilled FBI check. Also things like university diplomas or transcripts, maybe some corporate documents if you're setting up a business internationally.
Makes sense. And who actually issues this? It's not just any notary, right? It's government.
Correct. It comes from a higher authority. For documents issued by a state like a Massachusetts birth certificate or a document notarized by an MA notary, that apostille comes from the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office here in Massachusetts.
Okay, state level.
But for federal documents like that FBI check we mentioned, or maybe records from a U.S. federal court, the apostille has to come from the U.S. Department of State.
Ah, so federal docs go to Washington, D.C.
That's right. State docs stay state level, federal docs go federal.
Got it. And I'm guessing this isn't a walk-in and wait 5 minutes kind of deal, like getting something notarized.
Definitely not. It takes processing time. You submit the document, and standard processing can be anywhere from a few business days to maybe like 2 weeks or even longer, depending on which office and how busy they are.
Okay, so patience is required.
Yes. Though often there are expedited services available if you're really in a time crunch, but, that costs extra.
Naturally. Okay, so let's recap this. Notary, mostly U.S. use, checks the signer's ID pretty quick. Apostille, for international use in those 120-plus Hague countries, confirms the document or the official signature, takes longer, involves government offices. Can we just bullet point the key differences?
Sure. Let's lay it out clearly. First, purpose. Notary is about verifying the signer's identity, mainly for U.S. stuff. Apostille is about authenticating the document itself for international use in Hague countries.
Okay, purpose. U.S. identity versus international document. Got it.
Second, where valid. Notary stamp. Mostly recognized within the U.S., an apostille, recognized in all those Hague Convention member countries, over 120 of them.
Validity. U.S. versus Hague countries. Next.
Third, issued by. Notary certification comes from a licensed notary public. An apostille comes from a government office, either the State Secretary of State or the U.S. Department of State.
Issuer. Licensed individual versus government office. Okay.
And fourth, processing time. Notaries usually same day. Walk-in, often possible. Apostille takes days, sometimes weeks, require a submission and waiting.
Time. Minutes versus days, weeks. That really spells it out.
It does. And you can see now why getting it wrong is such a big deal.
Totally. Imagine you need that birth certificate apostilled for, say, dual citizenship with Italy, right? And you just get it notarized instead. You send it off.
And it gets rejected. You've lost all that time, maybe missed a crucial deadline.
Exactly. Weeks wasted, potential opportunities lost, flights booked, all because of this one difference.
It can cause significant stress and even financial loss. It's not a minor detail when you need it done right.
So the big question for you listening, how do you figure out definitively which one you need for your document?
The simplest way is to ask two main questions. First, where is this document ultimately going to be used?
Destination.
Right. If the answer is anywhere outside the United States, especially if it's one of those 120-plus Hague Convention countries, you probably need an apostille.
And if it's staying here, for a bank, a court, a lawyer in the U.S.?
Then you most likely just need a notary.
Okay, destination is key. What about the type of document? Does that give clues?
It does. If it's an official public record, birth certificate, marriage certificate, court order, something from a government agency like an FBI check and it's going to a Hague country, almost certainly apostille.
Makes sense. Public records for international use.
Yeah. But if it's more like a private agreement you're signing, a contract between parties, an affidavit you're swearing to for a U.S. court case, That usually points to needing a notary.
Private agreements for domestic use. Got it. So destination and document type. Now, what about that tricky situation the sources mentioned where sometimes you need both?
Ah, yes. That definitely happens. Think about a document that starts as a private thing but needs to be used overseas. Like maybe a power of attorney you create here but need to use in Spain. Or a business contract signed here that needs to be enforced in France.
Okay, so a U.S. document going international.
Right. In that case, you usually need to get it notarized first by a regular Massachusetts notary public.
Step 1, notarize.
Step 1. Then you take that notarized document to the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office, and they put the apostille on it. The apostille in this case is actually authenticating the notary's signature and seal.
Oh, okay. So the apostille is basically saying, yes, this notary who signed this is legit. The sequence is crucial. Notary first, then apostille.
Absolutely critical. You can't get an apostille on the document directly if it requires notarization first. Notary validates the signature, apostille validates the notary.
Wow, okay. Good to know. Now let's bring this home. For folks listening right here in Massachusetts, how do you actually get this stuff done, practically speaking?
Well, like we said, for a standard notarization, it's usually pretty easy. Find a licensed notary, maybe Barks, public banks often have them, law offices, places like UPS stores sometimes, dedicated notary services.
Right, look around, make a call. But the apostille, that sounds like more legwork.
It can be, especially since you need to know, is my document state issued or federal? Because that dictates where it goes.
Right, state stuff, like birth certificates to the Secretary of the Commonwealth here in MA. Federal stuff like FBI checks. Off to D.C. That sounds potentially confusing and time-consuming.
It can feel that way, you know, checking if the document even qualifies for an apostille, making sure you get it notarized correctly beforehand if needed, filling out the right forms, figuring out fees, mailing it securely, tracking it.
Yeah, especially if you're on a deadline. It sounds like something you wouldn't want to mess up.
Exactly. And the materials you shared actually pointed out a local resource that seems to specialize in handling all this for people right here in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah, like a service that helps navigate this maze. Who is it?
Yeah, according to the notes, it's MassachusettsApostilleServices.com.
MassachusettsApostilleServices.com, okay.
And the info says they handle both apostille processing and other document authentication needs. They even offer notary services, too.
So like a one-stop shop, potentially?
That seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
Locally, the address provided was 1215 Main Street, Suite 115 in Tewksbury, right here in MA.
Tewksbury. Okay. Got a number.
Yeah, it listed 978-424-4629.
978-424-4629. Good to have.
And the description highlighted that they offer, like, comprehensive help. Not just apostilles for Hague countries, but also authentication for countries not in the Hague Convention, which involves different steps, sometimes embassy legalization, plus state and federal document processing, even translation services if needed.
Wow. Okay, so they cover a lot of ground. What did the source material say makes them a good option?
It mentioned their experience talking about having decades of handling these things, even complex, really time-sensitive cases.
Experience counts in stuff like this.
For sure. They seem to promote themselves as being fast, reliable, secure, basically simplifying what can feel like a really overwhelming process when you're dealing with international documents, taking the stress off your shoulders.
That sounds pretty valuable. We even saw that little comment, right, from Linda T. in Cambridge.
Yeah, the testimonial. She used them for a work visa for Spain, needed an apostille, and said they handled everything. Called it fast, professional, and stress-free.
See, that's the kind of feedback that tells you a service like this can be a lifesaver when you're juggling international moves or deadlines.
Absolutely. It puts a real face on the kind of relief people feel when they can hand off that complicated paperwork to someone who knows exactly what to do.
No doubt. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up neatly. You've got documents. They need some kind of official stamp.
First question, staying in the U.S. or going abroad?
Right. If it's staying here and it's about proving you signed it, think notary, usually quick, done by a licensed person nearby.
But if it's heading overseas, especially to one of those 120-plus Hague Convention countries, or it's a public document needing international cred,
then you're almost certainly looking at an apostille. Government process, takes longer, might need that notary step first. State docs go state, federal docs go federal.
That's the core distinction. Domestic identity check versus international document authentication.
Seems simple when you break it down like that, doesn't it?
It does. And, you know, stepping back for a final thought here, it's really interesting. The fact that we're even having this conversation that these processes, like the apostille, exist and are so important for so many people.
Yeah. What does it tell you?
It just highlights how interconnected everything is now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Our lives, our work, our families, they cross borders constantly. Whether you're, moving abroad for a dream job, retiring somewhere sunny, dealing with family matters overseas, or expanding a business.
It's not just about getting a passport anymore.
Exactly. It's about making sure your fundamental documents, your birth certificate, your qualifications, your legal agreements are recognized and valid wherever life takes you. So knowing this little difference between a notary and an apostille, it's actually not so little.
It's kind of key to unlocking those international moves or plans.
It really is. It's about avoiding those stressful roadblocks and smoothly handling some pretty major life events across borders. Understanding this small piece of bureaucracy can save you a ton of time, money, and sanity in our increasingly global world.
That's a great way to frame it. It's not just paperwork. It's enabling your global life. Well, hopefully this deep dive has given you the clarity you need. Next time you see notary or apostille, you'll know the drill.
Hopefully you feel equipped to tackle it, or at least know where to turn for help if you need it.
Definitely. What's the one thing you hope people take away from this discussion?
Just that context is king. Always ask, where is this going? Why is it needed? Answering those two questions will point you in the right direction almost every time. Notary for here, apostille for there. It's that simple and that important.